Okay, this is Vaquero, 8 years old. This is what I call a ranch truck. What I'm getting at, he's a big bone, big tough horse, but he's real good to be around. And a ranch truck to me is the kind of horse you can get any job you want done. Plus you can put the kids on it, or if you have company, whatever you want to do. And oh, by the way, if you got to tip a cow over, he's the one to do it on. So what I want to show you is that this is kind of for Jim up in Montana. We talked about this. He has a horse about the same age, and it's a nice horse and everything, but it isn't real handy, and he's trying to figure out how to get it handier. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do with this horse. This horse is operating off a curb bit and a curb strap. Okay, that's what he's been rode in. Some bit that pretty much like this, I'm sure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach him how to ride off of my seat and my leg, and I'm going to get that done with my Snaffle. And then when I'm all done, I'll just transition into a slicer or a half breed. But you can see what I'm getting at is that everything is done off the curb strap in this horse's mind. Well, that's all wonderful, but I want to change it over to a feel through my seat. So there you go. Now I've got my Snaffle bit on with a noseband, and I mentioned to you the curb bit that was on him. The way the horse has been operating his whole life has been on the curb strap against the back of his chin. And that's what he respected, and that's what he dealt with. You pull, curb strap gets tight, horse stops. Pull harder, they back up. Well, for me to be able to transition to my seat, when I pull, there is no curb strap. This is just to keep the bit going through the mouth. So you can imagine now I've got a whole new set of pressure. I'm pulling directly on the mouth. So I'm going to back the horse up using all my cues with my seat. And I've got a new slate here, a clean slate for a minute. Then he'll start to listen to my seat. And when he walks backwards on loose rein, rolling the cricket, then I know I got him. And then I can start teaching him collection, self-carriage, moving off my seat, and then he'll be ready for a half-breed. Which this is basically a San Joaquin, but it's, in other words, a bit with a western bit with a long cheek on it. So that's the way this is going to happen. Thanks. Okay, now here we go again. You watch the head go up to brace against my hands. When I pull, he's going to have a different set of pressure. That's directly on the mouth. You see how straight my reins are. He's not connecting the dots for that to mean back up. Now you got to understand, his mind is focused on the mouthpiece right now. He's not listening to my body. I'm going to make that transition through my Snaffle bit. So now I've set up my skeleton, tip back, take my legs off, dish in my spine, high as I can get, and don't look at the back of his head. Exhale. Experimenting. He's trying to find out how to get away from this pressure. So I just showed him how to get away from the pressure. He's liking the cricket. So now I take my legs off again, set up my exact same body position. I'm asking, he's going to go behind the bit that time. Now he's in neutral. I'll put the equal pressure on and wait until he moves. You can see how far back I'm pulling with my hands. Now, don't take this as a bad thing, because the way his neck is, he's going to be pretty darn easy to fix. You get some downhill dink, you've got a lot of work on your hands. Now I'm going to ask again. He's figuring out where to be. Steady pressure and release. Now I'm not throwing it away anymore. Steady pressure, release. Pressure, release. Pressure, release. Pressure, release. Now understand, my legs are off. I take my legs off. This is a leg on, this is a leg off. On, off. That's what it looks like. Pull. I'm basically pulling him backwards. Now walk ahead. Exhale, sit down, and pull back at the same time. I'm teaching him to stop off my seat and walk backwards off my seat. Now, he's already rooting. He's figured it out. There's no curb strap, so he can pull my hands out of the reins. So that's where I got to be aware not to let him do that. Open. Prepare my skeleton. Pressure. Pressure. Pull. Release. Pull. Release. Pull. Just like a puppet. Now I'm going to drop my legs and drop my spine and exhale. And he stepped forward. And I just want him to stop. So I'm teaching him the two things. The stop, which I get to do twice. Here's once. And I want to get to where I'm not going to have to pull on my reins. Now, here we go again. You can see why I have the nose band on. It speeds up my time of fixing him. That was an intentional step. The last step, he intentionally picked his foot up. You can look at it two ways. It was perpetual motion. He was rolling anyway. Well, I'll take it. I'll take that. Contact and stop. Relax my body. Take my legs off. Get it set up. Pressure release. He's starting to list. Pressure release. He's starting to get cockeyed because he's thinking that's one way to get rid of this. So I'll put all the pressure on my right rein and move his hind quarter over. Now I'll back up again. There. Now I just crossed the bridge with my hands. He's not listening to my skeleton yet, but he's figured it out with my hands. Walk ahead. Went through my hands to stop, so I just pull harder. Now I'm going to say the word there when he intentionally walks backwards. If you watch the range, you'll see they'll get loose when he makes it. I'm asking for backup, pull, pull, pull. There. Crooked, backing. There. 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 Don't walk off. He just made it. He made two intentional steps. He just now ran off. So now we have a conversation. Now all this is walking forward and walking back. I'm going to school him on the lateral work until I get him to understand how to move off my leg to turn left or right instead of neck reining, as they call it, which is wrong. So I'm going to just walk him. You'll just watch me do it. This is an 8-year-old horse. It's not a 2-year-old colt. Now the question was asked to me if I am teaching the California style or the Great Basin style of roping and horsemanship. And that was an interesting question to me. So I'm going to answer it today. It's all about a timeline, geography, and people. Okay, the timeline would be pre-gold rush in California. Would have been the mission days and the big ranches. Whole lot of land grants. All right, now gold was discovered. You got to know that within about a 3-year period, everything happened bad. Gold was discovered. That opened the floodgates for people to come out west. California became a state, which meant that the United States government took over. And so that means it was the demise of the Spanish land grants because of slick lawyers. And the people just kept coming. Well, all this time there's vaqueros and spade bit men working on these ranches. So now in the 1860s, in conjunction with the silver in Nevada, the drought hit California and killed off all the livestock. It was terrible. But it didn't stop the people from coming, so the people kept coming. So the people in California started irrigating and figuring out how to raise crops because the hills were all bared down to the dirt, and the livestock business was pretty much falling apart. So the smart money from the ranchers in California went to Nevada. And when they went to Nevada, they put together some really big ranches over there. Spanish is one of them, Spanish ranch. People out of Palo Alto. And they took vaqueros with them. So now you're looking at a gold, silver and gold strike in Nevada, and some really big ranches put together, and vaqueros on the cruise, and buckaroos. Now I'm going to use for the first time the term vaqueros and buckaroos, because literally a vaquero is the Spanish word for cowboy, vaquero. Buckaroo was, we all know how they screwed up the word vaquero and turned it into buckaroo. So across the board, a lot of guys just considered white cowboys as buckaroos and Mexican cowboys as vaqueros. All right, moving right along. All the traditions from the mission days forward, pieces of them went over the mountains into Nevada. Now what didn't happen in Nevada was there wasn't a mission system, so there wasn't a bunch of slaves, and there wasn't a bunch of livestock run by the church, and there wasn't a whole lot of time like there was in the golden days of California. Now things are kind of stepping up. So my point is that tradition went over the mountain into Nevada. Now because of Nevada not having the people and having more mountain ranges than any state in the Union, the big outfits worked out outside, we'll call it, because they ran out in big country. They didn't have to worry about fences, and they'd roe deer the cattle and brand them accordingly. And all the things that came from California were now part of Nevada. And the interesting part for me is that what I've noticed is a lot of the self-carriage was lost because of the way the mission vaqueros had smaller Andalusian type horses. And by the time they got over to Nevada, horses had mixed breeds enough to where they had bigger, stouter, stronger horses. So the riding changed. The roping changed according to what they were doing. They were no longer roping grizzly bears. They were no longer laying down 5-year-old cattle to put the sold brand on them as they did in the post-mission days. So now every year the cattle are getting lighter. They're putting them on railroads in Nevada to go to California, east or west. And it turns out to working into 2-year-old steers instead of 5-year-old steers. So to answer the question, is I lean more towards the old mission style because that's what I'm a student of. I like to try to make a spade bit horse with the idea that if I had to go rope a grizzly, I might stand a chance of having a horse catty enough to get me through it and not die. That's just me personally. The loops that I throw are keeping the old tradition of roping a foot, a appendage, roping backwards, things that they did way back when, and I want to keep that alive. And what I've talked about before, in Nevada, because they brand a lot of times outside, and they use bigger branding traps than we do here now, so they use what I call big loop roping, and it's beautiful to watch. They have taken the mission style and the spade bit horse and turned it into the Great Basin style, and it's awesome. It's great, and it's alive and well. The reason that you hear about the Great Basin and the buckaroos more than you do the California style is because there's a whole lot more of them in Nevada that are doing the old style because of the geography. Once again, California is full of people. Nevada never was. So if you think about it, you still have the opportunity to ranch in the old style in Nevada more than you do here. Now, incidentally, understand that the Great Basin is southern Oregon, southern Idaho, Nevada, and from the Sierras to the border in California. That's what I consider the Great Basin. So it's not just Nevada. Eastern Oregon is a different state than Western Oregon. Mentality, politics, grass, water, cattle, everything is different. It's pretty much the same way in California with the Sierra Nevada drawing the line. So I hope that clears it up, and I think it's a really good deal that the Great Basin tradition's here, because when it goes from there, where's it going to go? There's no place else to go, because more people keep coming all the time. Now, this horse I'm sitting on, if you'll notice, because of me babbling like I always do, and just being redundant, the horse figured it out. And this is what I want to tell my friend Jim up in Montana. Just because you're new at this and you're kind of green, just do what I did and you'll find out that you can teach a horse to do a lot of things. What I'm showing the horse is he doesn't have to worry about the curb strap smashing his tongue, or they always talk about the bars, but smashing his tongue to make him do what you want. You teach a horse like this the concept of release, and then, oh, by the way, now I want you to evolve into a very light riding horse in a long shank western bit riding off of my skeleton. That's where we're headed. So one more time, I'm going to ask this horse to walk backwards. And watch him adjust. That's my point. I hope it's clear to see. But he's intentionally moving around. He's not bothered. He's not slinging his head. He's not wanting to buck me off. He's just fine. And the more that you ride with release, the more grateful a horse is, and the better ride you're going to have, because they're not having to worry about their mouth. They get to do their job and do what they want, and they're thankful that you're out of their mouth. So this ranch truck is going to turn into a Cadillac. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, if you think he's kind of common looking, well, that's a ranch truck. If you want a halter horse, about 3 hours south of here, there's a little town called Los Angeles. And I think it's a Spanish land grant, but there's a ranch called the Rancho de los Lobotomies. That is where you would find a pretty halter horse. Adios.